Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first million in real estate. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah!
On the show today, we have Pat Hiban. Pat is part of the $1 Billion Club and a New York Times best-selling author. In his career, he has sold over $1 billion in real estate and found the time to write his book, 6 Steps to 7 Figures. Pat, thanks for taking the time out today.
Hey, Toby, my pleasure.
Well, I've given a brief overview of you, Pat. Why don't you take a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself and your current projects?
Yeah, sure. Basically, what you need to know is I'm a resident of Columbia, Maryland, which is a small suburb in between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. I've been in business over 25 years now. I started out when I was 21 years old. Now I am 47. My whole life has basically been real estate, and that includes my investment life. I had to lay out my financial plan for a bank the other day, and the guy looked at me and said, "Man, you are the truest real estate guy I've ever met." And he's used to seeing, people with different stocks and different holdings and things like that. So I guess that was a compliment. In any event, I started out in 1987 full-time, right out of college. I graduated with a 2.3 GPA, what was it, 2.6, something, from college, and really struggled getting a decent job or any job. Went into the job that had really no barrier to entry, and that was a full-time realtor. And became a full-time realtor, sold 10 houses my first year, made $13,000. My best year, I sold made over 5. I made $5.3 million. So I went from, earning $13,000 a year to $5.3 million a year, gross commissions. And now essentially what I've done is I've sold my business to my business partner, Mike Sloan. He pretty much runs the day-to-day operations. I can go into how we split it up and that sort of thing later if that's one of the questions. And I live on horizontal income. I have 6 apartment buildings that I'm a principal in. I have about 4 other commercial properties. I have about 10 residential houses that I rent out. I am principal in 6 different private companies, all which pays me horizontally across the line, a total of about 29 things to pay me horizontally so that I don't have to earn on a daily basis, and all my bills are paid by the 29 horizontal lines. So I guess that's about it. How's that? Well, I wrote the book, which you mentioned, and it pretty much tells you how I went from 13,000 to 5 million, and how you can do it too.
Wow. So I understand now why you're broker. Your asset allocation is real estate. That's it. There's no mix in that. So
that and private companies. That's it.
So you didn't have you had a 2.6 GPA. You went out, tried to find a job, couldn't get a job, and why were you attracted to real estate, Pat?
I'll be honest with you. I don't want to sugarcoat this. A lot of people say, "Oh, I love real estate because I love looking at houses and looking at nice fireplaces and all that." But that wasn't the key. I don't have that gene in me. I was never really like, "Oh, this is a cool house." Still to this day, it was more of 2 reasons. Number one, I've always had kind of a chip on my shoulder. I never really wanted to have a boss. I had some bosses when I was 16, 17, and some coaches that never put me in the game, and some bosses that were real condescending, and I just always hated the boss complex, and so I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to be my own boss, And two, I realized the financial aspect of real estate commissions. I had friends at the time when I graduated college that, went and got jobs selling phone systems or Xerox machines or lighting fixtures or whatever it may be, and they would get a 10 or 15% commission on a $500 sale or a $1,000 sale, and the commission would be $150 or whatever. And I saw real estate. I said, man, here I can sell a house, even if it's $100,000, and the commission on that's 3%, and half of that's $1,500. I can make $1,500 or $2,000 a sale versus $200 or $20 a sale, and I just logically it just didn't make sense for me to go and sell anything else but something with big fat commissions. So that's the two reasons why, honestly.
I love it.
There was no emotion in it.
I love it. So lots of folks are, they want to, they would aspire to have your success. I mean, you've had success, $5.3 million, your biggest year earning, and now you have 29 streams of income. And that is unbelievable. What do you think the biggest hurdle is for real estate entrepreneurs? What do they have to overcome to be successful?
Well, let's just talk about real estate, and then we can talk about entrepreneurs, because let's talk about agents and then entrepreneurs, or do you want me to just focus on one?
No, that's very interesting because, as I see it, I think people do make a divide, real estate agent and then entrepreneur. And, for me personally, if I think about it, real estate agents are entrepreneurs. They are building their own companies. They have to build their own brand. They have to hire their own teams. So I see them really as one and the same. Am I mistaken in
Yeah. Well, there's certainly people that are real estate agents for 30 or 40 years and never buy a single piece of real estate outside of their primary residence. But yes, I think that, or still do everything themselves. But for the most part, I think that most real estate agents are entrepreneur-hearted in that they enjoy working for themselves. They enjoy making commissions and enjoy being pressured to earn versus being paid. Enjoy the insecurity of it, let's say, and so that makes them entrepreneurs right there. So yes. And so the question is, what is the biggest challenge?
No, the biggest hurdle. What do they have to overcome to be successful?
Well, there's really, in my opinion, there's really two words that define a good agent, and those two words are follow up. If you're a good follow up and you're demon on the phone and you're picking up the phone and bugging somebody who tells you they're going to buy a house in 2014 in the fall, and you're calling them every month saying, hey, just checking in, seeing if you need anything, or you've driven past any signs that looked interesting, or blah blah blah, which most agents would never do, you're going to sell those people a house. And follow up is what makes and breaks agents. The agents that don't do well, they don't follow up well. The agents that do well, they're often at follow up. And so I think that's the hurdle they got to overcome, is understanding that it's okay to bug people, that it's okay to be assertive, that it's okay to follow up.
That's amazing.
For fear of losing the deal.
Is that why you think they don't follow up? Why don't they follow up if it's so essential? Why don't people get this basic concept?
Yeah, number one, they probably believe that the person really is going to buy a house in the fall of next year, where in reality we all know they would probably end up buying in the spring. And they don't want the rejection associated with 2 out of 5. They're going to tell them that they're too assertive, and that's probably why, they're probably, there's an old saying that I use a lot, which is, the cat that sits on the hot stove never sits on the hot stove or the cold stove again, And I think realtors, if they're poor in follow-up, it's because someone screamed at them once, and they never want to follow up with anybody else ever again.
Got it. Well, you in your journey here, you started out at a tough spot. Again, 2.6 GPA, couldn't get a job. Was there ever a time when you felt like it was just too hard and you wanted to quit? And how did you push through that roadblock and find success?
There was one time that I remember sitting in my driveway, and I think it was like the early 90s. It was probably like 1992. And at that time, if I did whatever, let's say I did 30 deals a year, right? If you had some of these domino deals fall through, like you listed someone's house and sold it, and then sold them another house, and this is terrible thing, but I actually had a woman's house for sale in a bereavement group because she had lost a family member, and she referred me to two other people in the same bereavement group, and I had a couple of good transactions through this bereavement group. Sometimes we just go through these, referrals all seem to come at once from similar style people. But in any event, to make a long story short, I made a mistake, and I had forgot to put on I put a house on the market, but this was back in the day when you had showing instructions. You had to call the front desk of the office, and they would give you instructions. And I had put a sticky note that said, no showings till further notice, because for some reason I can't remember. And it was on the market like a month and never got showed because it was a sticky note at the front desk. Anyways, this lady called me out and screamed at me 6 ways to Monday, and fired me and fired me from selling her house, canceled the house she was buying, told her friends in the bereavement group that I was an asshole, and sorry about that, that I was an idiot. Hopefully you can edit this.
I can.
Okay. Told everybody in the bereavement group that I was an idiot, and they fired me too. And I remember sitting there like, I don't need this, because if I have 30 deals a year and I just lost 4, that was a big deal. I might now not get a settlement for 6 weeks, And so to make a long story short, I remember sitting in my driveway in my car just planning out becoming a lawyer. And I thought, you know what, I can do that. I can go to law school and I can become a lawyer. And I was thinking about what type of law I would do and blah, 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 blah. But luckily I never did that. And I think that the way to overcome that, to answer your question, is to just simply just keep going to work, keep plugging away. And we all get our heads kicked in, and you can't quit. That's all part of the game. It's a lesson learned by me, several lessons learned by me, and you got to chalk everything up to a lesson.
That's interesting. Was there any specifically? Was there anything that you did that? How did you turn that around? That's a tough place to be. You make a mistake, you get fired, you get yelled at, and you're thinking about changing careers. What did you do the next day to say, hey, listen, this is just a learning lesson. I can get over this and move on?
I got busy. I just jumped right back into it, and I said, okay, I can't sit here and focus on these lost commissions. Although the back of my mind wanted to, I had to just focus on how can I make new money today, And I just stayed busy. And I think that a lot of agents make that mistake, is that they don't stay busy. They go. In my book, I talk about the 12 ways to get out of a slump. And one of those 12 ways is just be busy. Just get busy, whether it's showing houses, whether it's calling on listings that you might normally not call on because you think they're overpriced, or FISBOs, or going to parties that you're invited to and hand out as many cards as you can. Just be busy, and things will come into your universe. Sales will come into your universe. You just have to keep pushing forward.
I love it. Pat, what do you think the single biggest thing that most realtors get wrong?
They don't treat the job of being a real estate salesperson the same way they would treat a job as being a different type of salesperson. They think that, like you hear about people that at any sales force of a company, you can just visualize the salespeople coming to work and cold calling. Just follow up. They do their daily cold calling people, trying to sell them a service or a product or whatever. And they're follow-up masters. And I think real estate agents, a lot of them, the mistake they make is they don't treat it like a real job, like a real salesperson job. They don't want to admit that they are at heart a salesperson. They think that they're above that terminology, salesperson, that they're, counselors or some other fancy term for it, which they are at some point, but you need to be a salesperson first and foremost. And part of being a salesperson is calling people on the telephone and engaging them and asking for orders.
Got it. Yeah, you have to. So do you think it's is that a skill that people don't, they're not honing that skill, or they just are viewing their career as a real estate agent as something different?
Yeah, I think that the management is not telling them that's a requirement.
Got it.
I can't speak to all different companies, but I've worked at, I guess, 5 companies now, and I've had my own company, and I think that a few of them that I worked at, they were just worried about putting the agents in and hoping some of them stuck to the wall, and some companies are better at talking to the agents about, like, okay, we need to hone your follow-up skills. We need to hone your prospecting skills, your lead generating skills. And I think that's important. I think that the realtor that forgets about lead generation is one that may be likely to have peaks and valleys that are not necessary.
Yeah, you got to keep that funnel always filled up. Well, for you, Pat, tell us about your first breakthrough deal or that first Eureka moment you had.
Well, I'll tell you about one of them. I mean, I've had a lot of, unfortunately, in real estate, the Eureka moments come when you're laying on the ground and someone's kicking you in the stomach because you lost a listing or a deal fell apart or whatever. And I've got a ton of them. Here's one. I remember I went to a listing appointment, and this is a person that I had been following up brilliantly with for like 2 years. Like, literally, like, they never met me, but they knew me on the phone, and they, we always enjoyed talking to each other and blah, 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 blah. And I was in a mood. Okay, so it came time they were getting ready to put their house on the market. So they're like, Pat, we're ready to list it. I'm like, cool, I'll be over. So I go over. I guess I'm in a mood about price because I had some listings that were overpriced, and I felt like, I need to be conservative about price. So I go over there in a very conservative mindset, and I look at the house. It ends up I wasn't prepared. They did not have a basement. Their house was on a slab, and I brought all the comps with – no. Their house had a basement, and there was a comp next door to theirs that had a slab. And I brought that over as the main comp. And they were like, well, no, that had a basement, and this has a slab. The comp had a slab. And I said, okay, well, that doesn't really give you that much. And And, I gave them this big list of things they needed to get their house ready to fix up for sale. I was very conservative on price. They signed all the paperwork. They gave me the keys. They gave me all their floor plans from the builder and their plat of the yard. I mean, I was there for like 3 hours collecting all the information, and we were ready to go. It was going to come on the market soon. And I was ready to list it, and the next day I got a call, and here's the lady, and I thought everything went well. I was like, yeah, I got this listing. Obviously, I got the listing, right? All the papers signed, everything, got the keys. And she's like, we stayed up all night. And I said, why? And she said, because you came to our house and you did not say one positive thing. She said, little did you know, but we are at the time there was no such term as like a hoarder, but they had a lot of clutter. And she said, little did you know, but we've spent the last 9 months decluttering this house, like cleaning it up, throwing stuff away. And you came over and pointed out all kinds of other negative things that we needed to do. We felt like you hated our house, that there's not one positive thing you said about our house. All you would do is say, negative things about why the price should be lower and why we needed to do more. And we've been working for 9 months, and we're very proud of the work we've done. And you did not give us any warm, sunny feelings at all. And we want our keys back. We want the listing agreement back. We want everything back. And so I had to drive all that stuff back over there and hand it to them. And then, of course, they called another agent, a competitor, and he came over and told them he loved their house and everything else, and he listed the house, and it sold in a weekend. I remember watching it in MLS. It sold in a weekend, and he made, a bunch of money, and they probably gave him several referrals after that. And I just remember feeling so down about that because it was 100% me. I mean, I had that listing. It was mine. And it was because I wasn't at the time a very complimentary person, and I realized that, I needed to be more complimentary. I needed to pretend, even if I'm pretending, that I love their house, right? You don't want someone to sell your house for you that's not in love with it like you are, right? How in the world can I sell the house if I'm going around pointing out all the negative things? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I mean, so you spent 2 years developing this customer, 2 years following up, and in one afternoon, the first time they meet you, you blow it. And you blow it because it sounds like, you were focused, you started the story with you were in a mood. So you were not, you were focusing more on you than them? And is that, I mean...
Yeah, absolutely. Or their house. I mean, I wasn't telling them, oh, you got a great house, I love it, da-da-da-da. And even if I didn't mean it, I think that it was important after that for me to every single house. And what I did from that day forward, and it was a great lesson. I mean, it hurt really bad, but it was a great lesson in that I haven't left the house since then, ever. Well, I didn't stop them at some point and say, you have a great house.
Right.
I love this house. You know what I mean? Even if the house wasn't that great, I would tell them, you have a good house. This is a good house. And look them in the eye and make sure they knew that I believed in their house, because they won't hire somebody who doesn't believe in them and their house.
Yep.
That's just how it is,
Well, Pat, let me say this. You are a great guest. I'm just joking with you. Hey, Pat, so you again, going back to your 29 streams of income, that's incredible. You have tons of stuff going on, private companies, apartment buildings to manage. How do you stay productive and focused on a day-to-day basis?
On what?
On whatever you're doing. I mean, how do you keep your how do you keep focused? I mean, how do you spend your time to stay productive? You're an author, you have properties that you manage, and companies that you are involved with. I'm sure you sit on the board.
Yeah, I'm pretty much an implementer, or a doer, and then I'm lucky that I'm at a point now where I don't have to stay focused on any one thing. Like, I'll give you an instance of the six private companies that I have ownership in. I own on the lowest end 2% of a company, and on the highest end 50% of a company. So all of my companies are not the larger portion of it where I'm having to be daily focused and daily responsible for it. And I did that on purpose because I didn't want to have to be involved other than maybe some financial meetings or things like that where I could, throw my 2 cents in, but I didn't want to be, responsible for holding them up. I'd rather be a silent partner. In the same way with the houses that I own are all managed by somebody else. The finances are all managed by someone else. I just look at what's in the bank account and what money came in. Same thing with the apartment buildings. I own all my apartment buildings anywhere from, I think 35% is the highest and 10% is the lowest. So, we have management companies that manage them. Rents come in, bills are paid. I get my 30% cut of the profit, and I get a K1 at the end of the year, and we have a couple meetings, or we might meet once a year with the other owners, or whatever it is. I prefer it that way. I've spent, my I call them hardcore years, the years where I had the most energy to focus on one thing, focusing really hard on, selling more houses and building that income more vertically. Like, you make 100,000 one year, you're going to vertically raise it to 125, then you're vertically going to raise it to 200, whatever. And so I don't focus on any vertical income right now. The only thing I focus on is horizontal income. How can I add a 30th piece to my horizontal line of income? I call that horizontal income, obviously. That's my focus. I just invested in an apartment building that I traded some emails back and forth about yesterday. I'm looking at a property. There's I've used up all my loans. You can only get 10 mortgages. I'm tapped out, but I have a mentee that's 26 that doesn't have any mortgages, and he came to me and said, "How about we buy 10 houses together, and I use up my 10, and we both own 50% of these properties?" And I said, "Hey, sounds like a great deal for me and a great deal for you." So I went and looked at one we're considering, and I'd love to add 10 more to that, horizontal line, so that would make 40, So to answer your question about focus, my focus is solely right now, all my focus is adding things to my passive income streams. Adding passive income streams. That's all I focus on.
Wow, that is a great place to be. So you said you have a mentee. How important do you think is it to when you're starting out, or maybe you've been doing real estate for a while and you've been mildly successful? How important is it to have a mentor?
Oh, I think it's extremely important. As a matter of fact, it's one of my 6 steps. I believe it's step number 4 is get a mentor. And in the book, I talk about, 3 or 4 mentors that I've had, and then I talk about how I went from having mentors to having mentees. And I still have new mentors, but I'm now building mentees. Like I said, I'm 47, so I'm at a point where I'm building mentees more than I'm building mentors. It's huge. When I released the book 2 years ago, I did a 53 city tour of different cities speaking to promote the book, and that was probably the number one question is people would come up to me afterwards and say, I'm a new agent and I don't know who to approach as a mentor. And my answer to them was, go to the rookie of the year in your office, because they had the same challenge you did only a year ago, having never sold a house before, and they became the rookie of the year, and you want to find out exactly what they did, and they're probably most willing to share because they're fresh and new and, happy to, it's a compliment to them that you come and ask them for advice.
Got it.
So
and how formal is that mentee mentor relationship? I mean, is it something where with your mentees, do you get on a phone call once a week and talk to them, or tell me about that relationship?
It's probably to different degrees. I mean, I have right now 9,000 friends on Facebook. I have 5,000 under Pat Hiban and 4,000 under Patrick Hiban, and I guess there's some people on there that I'm friends with that I never met that throw questions at me and ask me things, and I always respond. And I guess at some level they're a mentee, just as say someone like Tony Robbins, who I just met last month, but for probably 20 years. He was my mentor, even though I never met him. Some people feel that they might be my mentee or I might be their mentor, which is great. There are other people that are more formal. For instance, Jason Gennady, who I mentioned to you, who were buying houses together. With Jason, what happened was I met Jason in a Subway sandwich shop when he was 18 years old. So that was 8 years ago. He was local, high school kid. He had seen me on television. He was hanging out with his friends, getting ready to order a sub, and there was a long line. And all of a sudden I hear this kind of muffled voice, and I look over, and there's like 8 kids there, and they're all giggling because they figure that I can't figure out which one of them yelled my name. So I walked over to him, and I knew who it was. I just knew where the voice came from, and I said, "That was you." And he was like, "How'd you know? How'd you know?" And anyways, I gave him a card, and lo and behold, he called me the next day, and he said, "Hey, I just told my dad last night that I'm not going to college." And he told me that if I didn't go to college, that I had to find a mentor, someone who is successful that I can follow around, and they can pay me whatever they want to pay me, and I have to do whatever they want me to do, just so I can learn from them. And I said, great, come on in. So he was clearly a kid who wanted, at least he thought he wanted, and he did. His dad was right, to be a mentee. And he took direction from me, and we stayed in touch. And so now, actually, I help fund a company that he started, and I own a portion of his company. And we're going to start investing in real estate. And we meet, I like to hike, and at least once a month we'll go hiking together and just talk. And we formally review goals every year. I have about five or six mentees that I sit down with once a year and review goals, review their aspirations, help keep them accountable to certain goals. If they want to lose 20 pounds, I'll text them and say, hey, take a snapshot of your scale, and text it to me, or how are you doing with your diet, or whatever their goal is, and they want to be held accountable. I help them with that. And those are my more formal mentees.
Wow, that is a great story. I love it. I'm going to ask you something a little bit. This may not be your background, that's fine. But so how do you think sites like Zillow and Trulia have changed the way buyers, sellers, and agents interact?
Well, clearly they claimed the MLS to be a platform of the people, to be for public domain, like airwaves are, or the national parks are, or whatever you want to say. They are, I can remember before they came out or when they were coming out, there was all kinds of money being thrown into funds for attorneys that were going to fight to protect the MLS. Without the MLS, our commissions are going to drop, to flat fees, and that was a big scare tactic that everyone was believing. And of course it didn't happen. It just helped make our jobs easier, actually, and better, but it definitely transformed the industry so that the information is out there and people can look at stuff and be that much more informed when they call in or email in and ask about a house. So I mean, they're huge. All those things are huge, and Trulia, a Realtor.com, a Zillow, whatever. If you're a single agent or at a company that has a limited number of offices, there's only so much money that you're going to be able to spend to get people to, look at what's on your page. And those companies, I am going to guess, have so much more money to spend and have so much more power that they're not going away, and they're.
Yeah. Well, have you done any marketing on those sites? And
yeah.
How's that worked for you?
Well, some of them it's all about getting the people to put referrals up there about you, like Trulia, for instance. I've seen some agents that have, can put on there that they've sold 20 houses through Trulia and have 20 recommendations through Trulia, and they do a ton of business through it. So some of them you have to build, others you have to just pay money. I know that you can pay money, the Realtor.com, and the leads seem to be a lot more solid and higher price range and maybe some of the other leads that you might get on your own, depending on what you have on your own site. So everything works, nothing doesn't. I would warn some agents that, sign the shortest contract you can. I know we've signed up with a couple of them, and they haven't paid off the way we were told that they would, or we expected them to, and we got out of them, and it wasn't a big deal. But you don't want to get stuck in something long term if it's not working. So, test it first. Test it for a small period of time or a small zip code first, and if it works, if you can turn some commissions off of it, great. Bear in mind that, again, it goes back to what we said at the very beginning of this call. It's all related to follow-up. You can pay, thousands of dollars every month for search engine optimization, but if your follow-up is poor, you're not going to turn any of that into commissions. So, most of the battle is follow-up.
Right. Okay. Pat, if you could recommend only one book, what would it be?
Besides 6 Steps to 7 Figures?
Yes.
Okay. A great book for referrals and for building your referral brand and your past clients and that sort of thing is 7L by Michael J. Mayer. It's an excellent book. I highly recommend it.
All right. Do you have an internet tool like an Evernote that you're in love with?
GroupMe. I like GroupMe. It basically allows you to keep groups, so you don't have to keep creating group conversations with people or scroll down on your phone to find a past conversation. For instance, on GroupMe, I have a group that's just my family. I have, and anyone in the group me doesn't have to have an iPhone or smartphone, so they can be in a group conversation without having to have that. It doesn't show up as the text came from some random person that they don't know who it is. It's on the group. So anyways, I have being an owner of 6 companies and being involved in so many different little things, I have groups for all of them. So if I want to, for instance, I own part of a payroll company, and I have the 2 other owners of that same payroll company on a group me, and if I need something, I just hit the button on group me for Infinity HR, and I can send a little text, and it goes to both of them. Or I can send photos or whatever I need to send, a video, and it just goes to everybody. And it just saves time, and it's
got it.
A funner way to do it.
It's a good one. What are the first 3 steps a new agent should do to begin building his business in the next 10 days?
10 days. I mean, Floyd Wickman, one of my mentors, used to always say, CITO, come into office. The first thing they got to do in 10 days, they probably, for each of those 10 days, CITO, come into office. Just get them to come into the office and sit down and work, So when you come, that would be step 1. Step 2 would be start creating a database. Everybody you possibly know, if you were to die, who would come to your funeral? And then maybe do 6 degrees of separation from those people who are some people that they're friends with, or just if you have a Facebook account, go to your Facebook, and that list of all those people that you're friends with on Facebook, that's your prospecting list. And that would be it right there. So build a database of those people. And then the third step, which is the most important step, would be start calling. And that would be, by the second day, you should start calling. Again, you are a salesperson, right? Imagine the type of business that you're going to do if by the second day you're licensed, you picked up the phone and are calling everybody you're friends with on Facebook and saying, hi, I'm now a fully licensed full-time agent. I'm serious about this. This is going to be my career for life. And who do you know that needs to buy or sell a house in the next 6 months?
Got it. I love that. So, Pat, give us one piece of parting advice. Let us know where we can find you, and we'll sign off.
Well, I would say a piece of parting advice would be believe in yourself. I know it's kind of a cliche, but sometimes you have to believe in yourself more than other people believe in you, and believe that all you need is within you now. That and part of my putting out my book, it was kind of a thought process of, if I can do this, then you can do this. I was labeled learning disabled. In elementary school, I had a speech deficiency. I had to go to special classes because I used to say my R's like W, so they would get Roger Wabbit, and I was made fun of because of that. I wouldn't have been considered somebody who was going to, do all these cool things and do all these great things. And I think that if I can do that, like you can do it. And most of that reason was because I did believe in myself. I believed, and I continued to build my belief system through affirmations and goal setting, which is all outlined in the book. But that would be my bit of parting advice to help make that cliche a little bit more real and authentic. And then you can find me easily. I'm all over the place. You can find me on Facebook. That's probably my social media of choice. I'm there a couple times a day. I have a website, pathiban.com, that talks a little bit about my book. Amazon.com is probably the best source to buy the book. I don't know why, but they come up, they keep they recently dropped the price. I mean, the cover price is $17. They're selling it for like $12.10. You can get it on the digital version for like $7.50 now, which is a smoking deal compared to where it started at. And I don't make those numbers up. They just make them up because they take it out of their profit, how they manipulate the prices. But anyways, that's the easiest place to find me. And if you go to pathiban.com, you can download 50 free items. I put it out there for people who bought the book, but anyone listening to this call can get it even without buying the book. They can get 50 free items of value, of things we use at Pat Hiban Real Estate Group on a daily basis that can help them in their business. And it's just a zip file full of documents and employee contracts and things like that are usable for all agents.
That is great. Well, Pat, thanks for taking the time out and doing this show. We've all learned a ton from it. I know I have.
My pleasure, Toby. I really had fun doing it, too. And
well, you heard it, folks. That was Pat Hiban on why you should always follow up, focus on building your team, and go out and find a mentor. I hope that you can take one thing away from this interview and implement it in your business today. If you have enjoyed this session as much as I have, please go to iTunes and subscribe and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to keep getting these free mastermind sessions, please tell your friends and help us to continue growing our audience. Until next time, I am Toby Salgado, and I personally thank you for listening to Super Agents Live.
Let's go!